One thing I will say, right now, no wirehouse, so whether we're talking about Morgan Stanley or Merrill Lynch, B of A, or UBS or Wells Fargo, no platform has approved Bitcoin yet. So all of this price action has happened before they approve it. And so, we haven't even begun.
What's going on, guys? K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a wonderful start to your week. That's right, Bitcoin officially, and now there is no questions about it, has officially hit a new all-time high. You can see right here, as I am making this video, Bitcoin is pumping over $72,000, and you can see it doesn't look like it wants to stop anytime soon. So this is exactly why you guys can see right here, I put this video out 5 days ago and I did not make an update since that video. And the reason I didn't do that is because, a lot of maybe YouTubers, they flip-flop, they say one thing, then they say another thing. And we had Bitcoin falling on that day, right? We had Bitcoin even touch $58,000 on a few exchanges. And what I was saying in that video was this was not the time to panic. Do not be fooled. We knew the new all-time highs were coming. And the craziest thing that I was trying to stress in my previous video is that 3 out of the last 4 times that Bitcoin closed above a previous all-time high, it only took approximately 18 days to double in price. Now, am I saying that's what's going to happen today? No, I'm just providing the statistics. But what I will say is congratulations to everyone who has ever had the courage or the conviction or belief to hold Bitcoin through the turbulent times, because theoretically, as long as you did not sell your Bitcoin, every single person, every single human being on planet Earth who has ever bought and held their Bitcoin is up today. And it's crazy. I was reflecting on my journey from 8 years ago when Bitcoin was just $2,000. And I remember I was telling everybody about it. You can go back, you can watch all the videos on this channel, and people were laughing at me, telling me I was stupid. I mean, not even to throw it out there, but my family even said that what I was doing was ridiculous with my money. But, I digress from that. The point is clearly, obviously, the world is waking up to the power of Bitcoin. And I hate to say it, usually I'm not the guy to, throw shade at these bears, but Darren Ravel on September 13th of 2022, no, Bitcoin will never hit $70,000 in its entire history. You sure about that? You sure about that, right? Because what actually happened, this is insane, guys, but Bitcoin, as you can see right here, has officially surpassed the market cap of silver. That's right, Bitcoin is now the 8th largest asset by market cap in the entire world. Just let that sink in. In fact, let's just do some quick math right here, guys. Let's just I wasn't planning on doing it this early in the video, but for example, we have the gold market cap, right, sitting at around 14.7 trillion. Just for fun, let's just do this math. Divide it by where we are right now, which is we'll just do 1.415 trillion roughly. It might be different. So that's about a 10.38x from where we are right now. So theoretically, at around $72,000 even, of course, this is moon boy math, but it's just to show you how crazy things could get over the coming years, the coming decade. That puts Bitcoin at around $748,000 per coin if Bitcoin was able to get to the market cap of gold based on today's dollars. That's not including, inflation. That's not including the massive inflows, which, by the way, everyone seems to think that what we're seeing right now is all of this capital pooling in from all of these different places, but in reality, the ETF was just the beginning. What a lot of people don't realize is that there are still so many financial institutions that are still not ready to jump into Bitcoin. A lot of these people, they need to see a track record. They need to see at least a couple months of price appreciation before they can become comfortable, basically suggesting to their clients that they should start allocation, right? So there is still so much more to go. And guys, I'll do some really quick TA. There's really not much to go over because we are in full on price discovery. Every single thing is lining up. We have the money flow showing us that we're basically around the first 20 to 25% of what we should expect from this move above all major moving averages. And the only thing we really have to go off of is these Fibonacci levels, right? So based off of the previous high to the bottom, when you draw these extensions, it shows us that the next major super macro area is around the 1.618, which says that Bitcoin should at least minimally, bear case, go to around $102,000. Now, where could we possibly expect a pullback? Well, I don't know, guys. If you take it from here and sorry, wrong tool. Meant to do the Fibonacci retracement. This is just fun math right here. But if you were to take it from that pullback at the 0.618, which we knew we were going to have some form of a pullback, and you go down to the bottom of that range, I mean, that shows that Bitcoin should at least minimally in the medium term come up to around $87,000 before potentially having maybe another pullback again. But we are still in this parabola, right? Now, we do know that ultimately parabolas do break, and this parabola will break at some point, but that doesn't mean it's the end, because what happens is you break out of a smaller parabola and then you form a larger parabola, and these are where you can get these 30-40% dips, and that's exactly what I was talking about in the previous video. We can go over the lower levels. There's lots of lower targets that Bitcoin can go to. We have the 48, the 55, right? So are these possible? Of course, but I would not be betting against Bitcoin at this point. Now, something that could happen, this is a theory that's been floating around, is maybe what happens is once a lot of the regular, normal, everyday people start piling in, they hear about the halving narrative. Maybe as we approach the halving, that's when we have a little bit of a sort of sell the halving news into the event. But I'm going to tell you guys from past experience, which is, by the way, very, very different this time, we're going to go into also the diminishing returns, which is, everyone says, oh, well, each cycle we're going to get less and less and less high. That may change this time, and I'll tell you why. But again, we could have a little bit of a sell-off into the halving, just to shake out the new guys, make them scared. Guys, we've seen this time and time again. We had like 7 different 30 to 40% crashes in 2017. We had multiple in the years that had to follow, and yet today Bitcoin is sitting at a new all-time high. So again, I would not bet against the orange coin. That's why I am wearing my Bitcoin shirt today, guys, because as you guys know, I have been a hardcore Bitcoin bull, and basically all we've been talking about on this channel for the past year and a half is pretty much Bitcoin. And I will kind of discuss why, unfortunately for the average person, I do think Bitcoin is starting to get a little bit expensive, which is actually why you're gonna start noticing a lot of the altcoins taking off. Now, I know I've been a primarily Bitcoin-based channel. If you guys are interested, with your permission, I would love to start sharing some altcoins, because from my past experience, this is the time when you're going to start seeing those big moves. So if you want me to talk about some altcoins, I mean, obviously not financial advice. Bitcoin is the #1 asset, the way to go. You want to just store your wealth, set it and forget it. Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin all day. But let's be realistic, guys. Bitcoin needs to double at this price to make a profit. So we have to go over $140,000 for the average person to double their money now in Bitcoin, at least in the short term, right? Long term, yeah, $1 million Bitcoin, absolutely. Buy one now, forget about it, come back in a couple of years, and 2030, I'm sure you'll be sitting just fine. But yeah, man, it's getting crazy with the altcoins. So I would love to share that with you. I do worry about that sometimes, only because, it gets a little volatile. But if you want me to start talking about altcoins, I actually think now is the time where you could probably safely, and I say safely, loosely, start allocating to some lower cap cryptos and probably do quite well. But, obviously, guys, we got to talk about Bitcoin. We got to talk about Bitcoin on today's video. And I wanted to sort of turn it over to Gary Cardone, because he was over here in this video, and a lot of people have been talking about, that's it, we're due for a pullback, and we kind of had the pullback already. But he sort of goes into, are we going to get this magical pullback to go down to these levels that everyone's been waiting for? And the other interesting thing too is a lot of people don't really understand this, but the higher the Bitcoin price goes, actually the stronger it makes it.
Bitcoin is both a currency play. By currency, I mean this is a new currency. Like, I just cannot find a comparable asset to deploy capital into for 2 to 7, 8 years that I'm very comfortable will have not only a really safe return, but a astronomically risk-adjusted return for the what I consider to be a very, very conservative play here. I just do not see how this supply and demand thesis doesn't work out to much higher prices. And price is very, very important here. I know some of the Bitcoiners don't think price is really important, but price for the institutions and for adopting, the higher we go, the safer Bitcoin gets. So this is a really cool thesis, right? Like Bitcoin gets stronger as the price goes up, and you and I as investors get stronger as the price goes up. So I feel bad for people that have missed this window, have overthought this opportunity, have not deployed, or thought that they were going to get a pullback at 48, 42. I mean, there's still people saying that there's going to be a downward cycle at some point post-halving into the 40s, 45, 42, I've heard. Quite frankly, I'm not sure I'm that patient to wait. But that's a $25,000 move from here down. $25,000 move. If you were deploying, let's call it a couple $1 million, I mean, you're talking about the difference between 40 Bitcoin and 52 to 55 Bitcoin. So this is going to be a real challenge for me. This money happened to show up when the market's peaking out. And so do I chase it? Do I wait? Do I sit on my hands and expect this 30, 40% correction that's happened over and over and over again with Bitcoin? I think it will continue, by the way. In fact, I think we'll see, the higher it goes, the more volatility we will have. Seems kind of simple when you put it that way, but the higher we go, the more volatility we will have. Well, the ETF is relentless. I think that I was listening to something this morning, people talking about the RIAs. The RIAs aren't even here yet. I mean, this money is not the big money. I would bet that over the next 3 or 4 months, when the RIAs start to actually move, which I think that's going to require 3 months, maybe 4. First off, I think all the money that's being deployed right now through the ETFs, the families themselves, very few know that they have been allocated Bitcoin. These are advisors who are making decisions.
So we all know that obviously there's been a lot of Bitcoin bulls. I am one of them. I try to be somewhat conservative, with these price targets, but even I'll be the first one to admit it, was not expecting the price to get this high this fast. So that's a lot of the reasons why you have these OGs. Some of them have PTSD. You can't believe it that the price is going up. But remember, this is not the same market that was trading 4 years ago. In fact, it's not even the same market that was trading a year ago. We have a lot of new capital inflow, but here is the kicker. A lot of them are still not even given the option to have the allocation yet. So, if we come over here to what Kathy Wood was talking, she's talking about her $1 million plus Bitcoin price prediction. But of course, this is why she says that it could go even higher than she expected. But, again, we still don't have a lot of that new capital just yet.
If we can just forget Vanguard for a second, discount them, because as you say, there seems to be many other demand drivers for the price in front of us. So if you had that bull case for more than 1 million USD Bitcoin, has your forecast timeline to reach that price now shortened?
Yes, that target, what we evolved in, it was before the SEC gave us the green light. And I think that was a major milestone, and it has pulled forward the timeline. One thing I will say, right now, no wirehouse, so whether we're talking about Morgan Stanley or Merrill Lynch, B of A, or UBS or Wells Fargo, no platform has approved Bitcoin yet. So all of this price action has happened before they approve it. And so, we haven't even begun.
So what's your timeline for 1 million USD Bitcoin now? And is there perhaps a price target beyond that now?
Yes, our target is above that. We've got a 2030 target. So it's well above that. And with our new expectations for institutional involvement, the incremental price that we assume for institutions actually has more than doubled. So, I don't want to give out any particular prices, but because we don't know how quickly the more independent registered investment advisors in the United States, those platforms are saying, give us 3 months to do our due diligence. The others are saying we need at least 6 months. So, I would put those in the institutional bucket as well.
But in your view, Kathy, all of the factors are moving the price of this in an upwards trajectory.
Yes, Indeed.
So again, obviously we're talking bullish, and that's the sign. As soon as everybody gets bullish, that's when we have the big crash. Guys, no, you have to think logically here. Yes, when everyone starts coming in and everybody starts talking about it and everyone has their allocation of Bitcoin and nobody else is interested, then yeah, that might be, a signal for the top when everyone's talking about it. But I don't think we're there just yet. I have had a few people reach out to me and ask me about crypto, but really it's nothing like it was in 2020, not just yet. And, don't just jump to conclusions. Don't just start calling tops because it's the cool thing to do. A lot of people, they want to just keep calling numbers so they can be right. The reality is nobody really knows what we're about to do this cycle. This is something we have never, ever seen before. I mean, even Donald Trump is over here, talking to Joe Kernan about it.
Just wanted to ask you about something very specific for regulation, and that is Bitcoin. And I have in the past, I don't know if you recall, but I said, you got to look at this closely, Mr. President. And the current SEC commissioner, Gary Gensler, finally allowed for these spot ETFs. And now we see Bitcoin at almost 72,000. But it's almost as if it's in spite of some of the efforts over regulation of maybe the Biden administration. Do you have any thoughts now on crypto?
Well, it's taken its own life. I do little things sometimes for fun and, make money with it. But I have fun with it, too.
You mean
NFTs,
you bought Bitcoin?
No. But I sometimes will let people pay through Bitcoin, or will let people get involved in a new... if you think of it, it's an additional form of currency. And I used to say, I want one currency. I want the dollar. I don't want people leaving the dollar. And I feel that way. But I will tell you, it has taken on a life. And frankly, and I know Jay feels strongly about this. And Jay did a fantastic job, by the way, in a group where there's always scandal and problems. Jay went through 4 years. There wasn't one scandal. I don't know, Jay, maybe you can tell me, but there wasn't one scandal. That is the most scandalous position because it involves massive amounts of money. With Jay Clayton, we had no scandal, zero, nothing whatsoever. So I thought it was great. But I have seen there has been a lot of use of that. And I'm not sure that I'd want to take it away at this point.
But I just put that in there just for fun. I mean, I'm not going to go down the Donald Trump tangent, but, if you guys have been following Lynn Alden, she's an amazing economist. She's definitely very bullish on Bitcoin. And she talks about the diminishing return theory for Bitcoin, ultimately how you would expect that each time we would get a less and less and less multiple. But with all of this new landscape and all of these different people that are now provided the opportunity to allocate into Bitcoin, is it possible that, well, just throwing it out there, number one, the diminishing return theories actually gets thrown out with the trash, and number two, the fact that could we actually be entering a super cycle? Because remember, when gold had their ETF, what did it do? Went sideways for about, I think it was 10 months, and then it went on a multi-year, I think it was 8 straight years of non-stop price appreciation. Of course, it had its dips. Everything has its dips, but is Bitcoin going to follow in similar footsteps? And also, with such a low market cap, could it be even exponentially greater?
So Bitcoin has so far had a history of diminishing returns, still high returns, but diminishing returns. That every cycle, if you take the cycle high and do a multiple of the prior cycle high, or you do say the cycle low to the cycle high, there's a couple different ways to measure how big a cycle is, but according to most of them, you've had diminishing returns. One of the surprising things, kind of a consensus breaker, would be if you get a cycle that is higher than a prior cycle. That's never really happened before. And I'm still agnostic if that's going to happen this time or not. But one of the if it does happen, one of the factors that I think would be relevant for making it happen is the ETFs. If there's something that helps us surprise the upside, I think last cycle surprised most people to the downside. Like the high was not quite as high as some people were hoping. The low was lower than people were hoping, even though it was a much higher high and a much higher low than the cycle before it. But if you were to kind of surprise to the upside in a cycle, I think ETFs are one of the major variables that would probably enable that.
And something that I wanted to talk about that I've been very vocal about is a lot of people said that, the last cycle was so different. We didn't get the blow off top, we had the double top, and we didn't get up to some of those levels that we had looked for. Now, I personally believe that we should have and could have gotten to $100,000 last cycle, but the reason that we didn't is because we had a lack of regulation, we had no ETF, we had SBF, right? Basically stealing people's money. They also were actively selling massive amounts of Bitcoin to suppress the price, which, by the way, I do have a little bit of a conspiracy at the end of the video if you want to hear about that, regarding this cycle. We had all of these guys collapsing. We had Celsius, BlockFi, Voyager, right? We don't have any of that anymore. We had Binance under investigation. Just think about how terrible and horrible it was with all the negative news that came out. Bitcoin crashing below its previous all-time high into the 15,000s, only to rebound and put in a brand new all-time high. And like Willy Woo pointed out, this really probably should have reached up to this 100K level. You could see all the previous tops, we had that happen. It did not happen in the last cycle. Now, if we just look at where this is basing it, and again, not to do moon boy math, but kind of showing you maybe where we should have gone, okay? If we look at the upper band of this model, that puts Bitcoin at around $337,000. So according to this cycle, this means that I'm not going to say like we're early, because at this point, early was buying 15, 20, 30, even 45, ish when the ETF got launched, but it's still early in the sense of what I believe to be the length of the cycle. And you can see right here, there is a lot of room to the upside, and we haven't seen any major indicators telling us anything about selling. In fact, we've seen nothing but consistent inflows, right? Especially on the money flow indicator, which has a 100% track record, which is very rare to say that, but it has a 100% track record that when we do start entering this area, we're going for a while. I would be shocked. Like, honestly, if Bitcoin this was the top and we crash tomorrow, then you know what, guys? You fooled me. You got me as well. But I will say this at the same time, there's been bears calling for 10K, 12K. We're breaking new all-time highs. And you're still hearing bears come out saying that this is a big fake out rally. I mean, that is just absolute delusion. Please just mute those channels. Don't listen to those people. They're obviously just seeking attention, okay? The trend is your friend until the end, and the trend is still trending up. There is nothing in the charts, there is nothing in the sentiment, there is nothing in the fundamentals that suggests that anything should be negative right now, unless, I don't know, maybe like a war breaks out or there's some black swan that would, I don't know, something. But as far as just, looking at it, there's nothing that should be, preventing Bitcoin to going even just to the lower areas around 150,000, like, Tom Lee had points out. And he also mentions the fact that it's not just the price, but I think people are waking up to the intrinsic value as well.
Just to put a fine point on this issue about the correlation with the markets, and how do you so if you're saying it's correlated to the markets, and we have a market that's doing quite well, and as we said, it appears the economy is doing quite well. The idea that it would do very well in a bad economy, which is what a lot of people have been trying to suggest, I think, on this broadcast earlier today, is that right or wrong?
I think Bitcoin is a hedge against unsound money, and that's why when Joe talked about it as a currency, that's how many people do view it, because Bitcoin has its own unit value and it's measured against dollars, and I think it's the same way people measure gold against dollars. So I think if there is an event, and we've seen it in Turkey or Venezuela, that when those currencies collapse, Bitcoin has been a way for people to preserve wealth. So I don't want to see that test sort of put in the US, but I think that's one reason people own Bitcoin.
So that's something you have to consider. And, as Gary Cardone had said earlier in the video, obviously these higher prices are going to attract more institutions, right? They want to see the price go up. Of course, yes, they want to buy the dips if they can, but what they really want to get invested in is something that has a proven track record. Now, Bitcoin has been the best performing asset in the last decade and a half, right? But they have not really been paying attention. They want to see it happen in real time. So that's for the institutions. But then you also have to consider just the fact that Bitcoin is like no other market we've ever seen. In fact, it's the first ETF that's ever had a limited supply. And on top of that, it also is something that trades on the weekends. It trades, you know, when markets are closed. It is able to be used at any point, at any time, in any country in the world, whether you be first, second, third world country, doesn't matter. If you have internet access, or actually, you don't even really need internet access, because we've seen them use, like, I swear, you guys remember a couple of years ago, they were using CB radios to send Bitcoin. That's a thing. Mesh network. Look it up. I'm not making that up. And that's what Michael Saylor goes into today, explaining that it's much larger global phenomenon than just, like, for example, an appreciating stock.
Bitcoin's a superior investment to gold, equity, bonds, and real estate because it's digital. You can trade it 1 million times faster than conventional assets using a computer. It's available. Most other assets only trade less than 20% of the time. Bitcoin's trading 168 hours a week. We bought $800 million of Bitcoin, and a lot of it we bought over the weekend when all the conventional markets are closed. It's global. It's the most widely recognized and trusted investment asset in the world right now. It's ethical because it's the king of all commodities. There's no issuer. There's no company. There's no country controlling it. And fundamentally, it's useful. Thousands of market makers can trade it all the time. Millions of companies can trade it. Billions of people. If you want to buy a house on Saturday in Africa, this is the way to do it. If you want to buy a car on Sunday morning, this is the way to do it. So it's a pretty great asset. It's the greatest of the assets, in my opinion. There's no second best asset. So I didn't have any question about it. We're just waiting for the rest of the world to realize how good it is.
So it wouldn't be a Crypto Zombie video without a little bit of conspiracy, and I wanted to turn it over to British Hodl. Now, this is actually a couple days old, but you know how Coinbase keeps crashing? He said, this is speculation here, but there may be some Bitcoin manipulation. How can you have 4 years to prepare your systems, have the majority of demand coming from institutions, and still the server crashes every time we reach all-time high? Here's what I think. Bitcoin breaks all-time high, markets start running out of OTC, the OTC desks start running out of Bitcoin, bull market prevention team at Coinbase steps in and shuts down the engine, you know, obviously saying that, oh, we can't handle it. Retail panics, the trading algos start dumping and the OTC desks get all their Bitcoin back after the flush. Coinbase turns back on the engine and allows BlackRock, Fidelity, and the big boys to buy up all that Bitcoin. Then he goes on to say, if this is not happening, then Coinbase is proving to be one of the most incompetent exchanges of all time. So yeah, I mean, is this a conspiracy? I don't know, but all I can say to you guys is, if you're selling your Bitcoin, listen, I am not against taking profits. If you want to take profits in fiat, that's fine. We got to pay our bills. I've had to sell Bitcoin before. I'm not proud about it, but I have to do it. That's how I live, right? I've had to sell Bitcoin at 6,000 and 10,000 and 30,000. And unfortunately, I had to sell Bitcoin a month ago right in the 40,000s, not because I wanted to, but because that is how I survive. But long term, there is no better option, in my opinion, than storing your wealth in Bitcoin. Obviously not financial advice, but that's where I stand. You guys are awesome. Once again, congratulations, Bitcoin at a new all-time high. I do believe that there is much more of this market to come. And again, if you want me to start talking about altcoins, you know, it's not that I'm a fan of shit coins. It's not that I'm saying that, you know, this coin is better than Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the best, hands down. There is no doubt about it. But again, Bitcoin's getting very high. And at a $72,000, you know, price point, that is pricing a lot of people out of the market. So, you know, most people that have not had an allocation to one Bitcoin, I would still say make it your goal to get one Bitcoin. I know it can seem boring. I know it can seem like there's a lot of other things happening. I would definitely still make that your priority. But at the same time, there's going to be a lot of new people coming into the space. They're going to look at the price of Bitcoin. They're going to say, screw that. I'm scrolling down to page 4, 5, 6 of CoinMarketCap, and I'm going to go into this $20 million coin because I have a better chance. And actually, because that's what they're doing, it's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. It has nothing to do with the value of altcoins. It has nothing to do with whether or not they're actually worth the market caps that they're at. That's not it, guys. You're talking about greed. You're talking about emotions. You're talking about retail, you know, coming in, and I hate that term retail because, you know, technically I'm retail, right? I mean, we're all retail. I'm not an institution, you know, but the regular average everyday people that are coming into crypto right now, that's what's going to happen. And for everyone that's been watching, this is what I do. You can take these opportunities to, you know, use their FOMO, use this sort of alt season, which I do believe I believe it's coming very soon, because it usually tends to happen, you know, after these all-time highs, and then you can take those gains and put them into Bitcoin long term. That has been my strategy all these years. So if you guys want me to start dropping a little more altcoin content, again, do your own research. I'm not Nostradamus. Nobody pays me to talk about anything. This is just what I am looking at, but I would love to share that with you. Again, though, congratulations for all my friends that have been hodling Bitcoin. You did it, guys. You can actually officially say you did it, you know, and you'll be humble about it. Be humble, because anything can happen. But at the end of the day, congratulations. You guys rock. If you do want to trade, guys, please take advantage of these opportunities right now. We have decentralized exchanges, centralized exchanges, and LevX is still, go to the LevX link below. They're still offering up to $50,000 on a match trade. So if you basically win, you get to keep those profits. It's free money. And if you lose, it doesn't matter, because it wasn't your money anyway. So thanks again for coming back to the channel. You guys rock. I love you. You're awesome. Until next time, stay crypto. And of course, peace out.